Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good afternoon. I am Solid Blue Sister, and welcome to My Turn to Talk. Today is July 1st. We made it to July 1st. So today, I want to talk about Black Hollywood. And I'm not going to talk about Denzel. I'm not going to talk about Halle Berry. I'm talking about Black Hollywood, the original Black Hollywood that is, in my opinion, mostly forgotten. We have phenomenal stars who were acting in the 1919s, 20s, if you watch silent films. As I said before, I love black and white movies. I will watch a black and white movie before I will go, watch Denzel or something. In fact, a lot of the movies that come out today, I usually don't see them until literally maybe 2 years later, because I don't think that they compare to the black and white movies of the 30s and 40s, and even 50s. And that's for both movies with African-American actors and movies with white actors. So having said that, I'm going to start off with my favorite actor of all time. In terms of my favorite African-American actor, she is my favorite of all time. In terms of just my favorite actor, period, she's my favorite of all time. And unfortunately, even though she acted with practically every major white star in Hollywood, she was always relegated to the to playing maids. And I'm talking about Theresa Harris. Not only was she beautiful, but she was talented. So I am going, hold on, let me get a couple of things going here. I am going to share, let me get rid of this. Okay, I'm going to share this with you. I'm gonna close this up a little bit. And here we go. Okay, I'm going to stop it here for a moment. I don't know, this particular clip does not have audio. You basically have to read what was going on. But if you notice, it said that her first major role where she was able to sort of break out at that time for a black actor was opposite Barbara Stanwyck in a movie called Babyface. Now, I've seen Babyface a lot of times. It's one of my favorite movies, and it was pre-code. So back then, they were doing things, that and a lot of sexual innuendo, whatever. But Theresa Harris was pretty much the equal to Barbara Stanwyck, even though Barbara Stanwyck was the star, and Teresa Harris was her maid. But in the movie, Barbara Stanwyck doesn't treat Teresa Harris as her maid. She treats her as her equal. Teresa Harris is wearing fur coats. She's going out to nightclubs. She is at that time, if you want to look at it, she is Barbara Stanwyck's equal. Now, let me get this other picture. But Teresa Harris, she was probably one of the few, I'll say not, she wasn't the only, she was one of the few African-American actors at that time to star in, and I don't even want to use the word star because she wasn't top billed or anything, but she was in a lot of the major movies with the major white stars. So having said that, if you notice in that clip, it said that she was frustrated that she was relegated to the maid and the waitress and the hat check girl. But back then, that's all they had. That's all they were able to do. So that brings me to, let me share this with you. That brings me to Hattie McDaniel. Now, a lot of people may know Hattie McDaniel from the movie Gone with the Wind. She was the main maid, but Hattie McDaniel, she acted in so many movies, and she was criticized. She was criticized. I spoke about her once before. Hattie McDaniel was criticized by Black America for always playing the maid. And at the end of the 1930s and going to the 1940s, you had a civil rights movement that was really starting to pick up. Even though we did not, get the right to vote until 1965, you had a civil rights movement that was starting, that was brewing, that was always there. And Hollywood kind of pushed that civil rights movement forward for African Americans because they were tired of seeing Black actors like Hattie McDaniel always playing a maid. And like I said before in one of my previous shows, one of her staunchest supporters was Clark Gable. Every year, Hattie McDaniel had a party, and in her mansion, because Hattie McDaniel was a millionaire. Through these roles that she was playing, she was able to become a millionaire. And Hattie McDaniel, she famously said that, I may play a maid, but that doesn't mean I like being a maid. And she also recognized that she had to eat. She also recognized that by her playing these roles and taking these roles, that she was able to help her family. And she had other siblings who were also actors. And she was able to help extended family. Unfortunately, when she passed away, she was no longer a millionaire, but when I look at the actors today who are making millions of dollars, and this is when I go back to the athletes and everything, it's like, remember who came before you, remember whose toes you're stepping on, because Hattie McDaniel, and Teresa Harris, they played those maids. So you don't have to. They got roles where they did not get credit for. So you don't have to, But Hattie McDaniel, she passed away. And she passed away. She didn't have that much money when she passed away. And one of her greatest wishes was to be buried in Hollywood Cemetery. And Hollywood Cemetery was only for white people. And she was not allowed to be buried there. It didn't matter if she was Hattie McDaniel or not. She was not being buried in Hollywood Cemetery. She does have a cenotaph there now that her family was able to erect for her. But Hattie McDaniel is not buried in Hollywood Cemetery, which is now called Hollywood Forever Cemetery. The other person I want to talk about is Stepin Fetchit. Stepin Fetchit is also known as Lincoln Perry. He was born Lincoln Perry, and you guys may know him as he was usually the actor who was like, yes, the boss, no's the boss, and he would have his bottom lip hanging, no's the boss, yes, the boss. I mean, he was that person. And he is known as the Black actor who divided Black America, because people were so offended back in the 40s, 30s and 40s. They were so offended by his portrayals on the screen that a lot of, he took a lot of crap from everyday Black people. Even some Black actors were offended by him. But once again, Stepin Fetchit, or Lincoln Perry, was a millionaire. And he helped a lot of Black people. The same Black people who were criticizing him, he helped them. He paid rent. He bought food. He did all of this stuff, from the wages that he made playing the roles that he did. Now, once again, we're living in the 21st century, and we can look back at someone like Stepin Fetchit. I'm not mad at him because, again, he was doing something, to pay his rent. Again, back then, it's not like they were going to offer him the lead in Gone with the Wind, or compare him to John Wayne or whatever. Wasn't going to happen. So once again, I say to the people back then, this man helped you. And to the Black actors now, remember who came before you. Because it's people like Stepin Fetchit who took a lot of shit, not just from Black people, but from white folks too, just so he could survive. And someone who also Stepin Fetchit became friends with was Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali did not agree with his portrayals, but he understood them. And Muhammad Ali and Stepin Fetchit became friends until Lincoln Perry Fetchit until his death. So, you go back and you look at these people, and then we have, where is my picture? We have James Edwards. James Edwards was Sidney Poitier before Sidney Poitier, okay? And he was the one who really crushed, let me make sure I get this right, where I say his name wrong. Okay, he was the person who really started to crush the Stepin Fetchit stereotype. He was the one who in Hollywood, when they were, giving out roles or whatever, he was like, I'm not playing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not, going to be a lazy Black man. I'm not going to, kowtow to a white person. And for a while, he didn't get roles. but he said that he was not going to be shiftless. And James Edwards became a phenomenal actor. Some of his movies are just, I mean, phenomenal. You know, if anyone has seen Patton, and yes, he played opposite George C. Scott as his valet, but he wasn't the typical one. He was like, you're going to respect me. You know, and people started to take notice, and people like James Edwards started to turn things around for Black actors. And then we have all right, I don't know if anyone is familiar with the movie Pinky. It is, this is Ethel Waters with Gene Crane. It is another movie that I've seen many times, mainly because of Ethel Waters. And it is a story about a girl, Jean Crane. Her name is Pinky, and she passes as white. And she leaves the South. She was raised by her grandmother, who is Ethel Waters, and she becomes a nurse. And she falls in love with this white doctor. And she comes back home to visit her grandmother. And her grandmother, Ethel Waters, is not happy that she is passing for white. So her doctor boyfriend comes down, and he thinks that Ethel Waters is her mammy. And he's like, why are you here with these people? Why are you, staying here, whatever? And what's interesting about this movie is that the two people who wanted the role of Pinky was Dorothy Dandridge and Lena Horne. The powers that be in Hollywood refused to allow them to play that role, but instead they gave it to a white woman. Now, we know Dorothy Dandridge and Lena Horne. We know what they look like. They could have easily played the role, whatever. But the problem was in the script, this person passing for white falls in love with a white man, and they can't have a Black woman hugging up and kissing a white man in the 1940s. Can't have it. So we have phenomenal actors like Lena Horne and Dorothy Dandridge who didn't get the role. Instead, it went to Jean Crane. And the rest is history. So before I go on, does anyone have anything they want to say?
Unfortunately, and hello, by the way, happy July 1st. Unfortunately, Hollywood has been racist for a long time. Just, recently what was it? Was it the Golden Globes that they were protesting because no one was nominated or no one got an award or something? So and then there was also controversy as to the members of the academy as well. So the racism still exists today, and I only just shudder to think about how racist it was back then. It almost, to me, it's really unbelievable that those wonderfully talented Black actors back in those days knew what they were up against, yet they still wanted to pursue their craft and display that excellence on screen. That it's just amazing, because the average person would have been like, what's the point? I'm only going to be a maid, or I'm only going to play this step and fetch it role. But for some people, it wasn't even about the money. It was just the fact that they were doing something that they loved doing, acting. But I wonder how many people could have suffered through the racism just to play a maid. It's just amazing about the resilience of our people, Black people in this society. It's amazing what we had to go through and what we still go through, especially during those times, which are worse than they were. The times were worse back then, of course, but just to go on and to go through that is just amazing to me.
Okay, let me ask this, because I have to bring up Sam Jackson. Okay, and again, I'm not a Sam Jackson fan, and even though you look at Django Unchained, where he was playing the butler, whatever, but of course it wasn't the same way that Stephen Fetchit would have done it, or Canada Lee, or some of these other Black actors, back in the 30s and 40s. Do you think that, I mean, because I look at the roles that Sam Jackson's playing, and even when we were talking about Quentin Tarantino the other day, and at some point as an actor, I would have to go to Quentin Tarantino, whether he's Black or white, and all these nigger. I would have to say to him, I'm not saying this, or you need to tone it down. So my question is, do you think that, and again, I don't know what Sam Jackson thinks, whatever, but do you think that he looks at someone, like Hattie McDaniel and Teresa Harris and Paul Robeson, Stephen Fetchit, and just have an appreciation for what they did for him as an actor?
I would say he probably, I'm sure, he's I believe he's a trained actor. He's not somebody who just came up and like some of the rappers who have turned acting into acting. I believe he was a trained actor. And I didn't see Django. I didn't see that. I will say that he's a very talented actor, in my opinion. He's very convincing in his roles, but I don't think that he probably cared as to what the other Black actors went through or had to go through. He probably sees it as a different time, and from what I understand, he's pro-Black in causes, and I just think that he's completely removed from that era and any acknowledgement that the N-word is not cool, especially for someone like Quentin Tarantino to, over and over, every movie that I won't say every movie, but lots of movies that involve Black characters, he uses that word freely without any question as to its meaning. And I think I read Samuel Jackson say something to the effect that he's not in defense of Quentin Tarantino. He understands that this is how people talk. He understands that. So that was his defense. I'm like, okay. But I don't think he really cares.
And I think that's sad. I really do, because every time you and this is and literally, this is just me, when my husband's watching TV and I, go into the kitchen or whatever, I'm listening to what he's watching. If he's watching, football or basketball, and if they do an interview with a Black athlete, and I listen to some of the things that they say, and it's like, well, some of them, I'm not going to name names. I don't care. It's like I'm getting paid. I'm getting paid. And it's like, yeah, you are getting paid. But again, I say, look at the people who come before you. And for you to say, or to use an excuse, well, this is how people talk. No, everyone does not talk like that. And for Quentin Tarantino, it's like the movies that he writes, when there are Black people in the movie, he's using the word nigger consistently, over and over and over. Yet when he did that movie with it just escaped my mind. The one was with Brad Pitt, Germany. They weren't using the word kike. It was a Jewish movie. And like you said before, on a previous show, that Jewish people, they don't do that. So how come you're talking about a lot of Jewish people? How come you're not using that word? Why doesn't the word kike come up? But for Black people, for Black people, the word nigger constantly comes up. So I have to question Quentin Tarantino in terms of, you were just loving the fact that you're saying that word. And then I look at Sam Jackson and other people, even Jamie Foxx. Why are we using this word so much? It is possible to make a good movie and not have to use that word. So again, I look at Jamie Foxx and say, do you know the history of your people who came before you, who allowed you to win that Oscar, who allowed you to get the roles that you're getting now? That is my question. My dogs. So I don't know. But I am going to keep going, and I want to talk about Sammy Davis Jr. So let me pull this down. And we are going to share the screen again. And we'll go to Sammy Davis Jr. Hold on.
There are many other things about Sammy Davis that are not common knowledge. And at one point, Sammy was a world-class quick draw artist. When I was trying to make something of myself in spaghetti westerns, Sammy was at home practicing the art of the quick draw. He said if they ever start making chitlin westerns, he was going to be ready. So as everything Sammy does, he went all out. He got himself the best equipment: silver mother of pearl handle, long barrel Colt pistols, hand-tooled leather, and a Gucci holster, real silver bullets. Here's an excerpt from a BBC special done in the 60s, and this will give you an idea why you should never mess with this guy in a shootout. As I walk down in the streets of Laredo. As I walked out in Laredo one day, I spied a young cowboy wrapped up in white rain. Ducks, I wouldn't put it on unless I was good at it. See, single action means like, unless you have the modern revolver, they can fire this way by just pressing the trigger. With the old-fashioned Western gun, you have to cock the gun first and then fire. So that, in essence, when you go for the fast draw, the gun is actually cocked while it's in the holster, like so. See, it's cocked here. You pull out and then fire. Of course, you must be careful that when you do this, you don't do that. Or you'll find out immediately why Chester walks with a limp.
Okay, couple things about Sammy Davis. Now, again, what you just saw with him being the fast draw with that gun, he had his skills with the gun went even further. I mean, he was a master. He was a phenomenal master with a gun. But you know who wouldn't act in a movie with Sammy Davis Jr.? John Wayne. Wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. He was not going to act in a movie with a black man who was better than him, a white man with a gun. So y'all know John Wayne thought that Black people, the Negro, was inferior to white people. At the same time, Sammy Davis, with his skill with a gun, was not going to allow himself to be killed or shot by a white man that he knew he was faster than. Now, granted, this is the movies, you know, just because you're fast in real life doesn't mean you got to be fast on screen. But for Sammy, it was the principle, you know, and I agree with that. But the fact that you have this white star known all over the world refuse to act in a movie with a man who is better than you. Doesn't, you know, I mean, even when Sammy was running with the Rat Pack, and they used to, you know, want to have competitions with guns to see who could shoot the best, who was the faster draw, whatever. After a while, they didn't want to do it anymore. They were getting upset because Sammy always won. Sammy Davis Jr. knew firearms. He knew how to shoot them. He knew how to take care of them. He could name any firearm that was out there. And there were a lot of movie roles that he went for, that he was turned down. Because once again, the powers that be in white America said, white people are not going to accept that a black man is that good with a gun, especially a black cowboy. Come on. So Sammy, he did acting roles where he was able to showcase his talent. But they were little half hour, series like Lawman, The Rifleman, you know. But he was never really able to showcase it in a movie where he could showcase his talent. And I think that's sad. Then you also have the fact that Sammy Davis Jr. was married to Mae Britt, a white woman. And we all know that the story where President Kennedy did not want Sammy Davis Jr. at his inauguration or any of his dinners because the Southern whites would not accept the fact and would not like the fact that this Black man is married to this white woman. So he was fine with President Kennedy up until the fact that he married a white woman. Then President Kennedy said no. And Sammy Davis Jr. never visited the White House again when President Kennedy was in office. You have all these actors. You have Louise Beavers. Again, she played a maid. She was probably right up there with Hattie McDaniel. And, she played a lot of the demeaning roles, in the 30s and 40s. But I've always, once again, Louise Beavers, I've always liked her movies. Because even though she was playing a maid, she brought a level of dignity and respect, just like Hattie McDaniel did. But unfortunately, you look at these actors and they're forgotten. Instead, we're looking at Halle Berry. You're looking at Beyonce, who, is she even an actor? Seriously. These are the movies that people should go back and watch because they were in so many movies. So many movies. And you look at Butterfly McQueen, who was in, she's best known as, I don't know nothing about birth, no babies. Unfortunately, she's been stereotyped, but the movies that she's been in, her acting in other movies have been phenomenal. These are the people who opened the door for the people that we see now. These were actors. To me, coming up now, you have entertainers and celebrities. But these are actors. These were African Americans who could act, who cared about their craft, who unfortunately, because of the time that they were in, they were limited. Look at Oscar Micheaux, the first African American who directed and produced a movie, silent and talkies. And he went on to produce other movies that are out there, but a lot of people don't know about him. I mean, there are just so many people. You know, you look at Harry Belafonte. You know, he was singer, you know, acted with Dorothy Dandridge. A lot of people may remember him from acting with Sidney Poitier, you know, in all of their movies, what have you, you know, but Harry Belafonte was and still is a big player in the civil rights game. And a little known thing about Harry Belafonte, well, some people may know it, but I don't think a lot of people do, is that he was asked by Johnny Carson to take over the Tonight Show. I do believe it was back in 1968 for 1 week. And NBC wasn't really happy with Johnny Carson's decision. But Johnny Carson said, this is who I want for this week. Harry Belafonte was the host. And for that 1 week, Harry Belafonte took advantage of that week being on television, being that civil rights person that he was, and everything that was going on at the time, especially in 1968. 1968 was just like 2020. You know, the protests, assassinations. You know, you had the 68 Democratic convention in Chicago where, you know, Mayor Daley said, shoot to kill. There was just so much going on, and Harry Belafonte took advantage of that time to talk about Black America, to talk about the injustices. And he had people come on his show or on the Tonight Show who also talked about it. And white America, for that 1 week, they saw a different America, and they saw a different side of African Americans. We're just not, you know, shucking and jiving, dancing for y'all. Yes, massa. We're more than that. And I applaud Harry Belafonte for doing that. And he took some crap, you know, from white America for having people on the show and for talking about it, talking about the injustices. And to this day, Harry Belafonte, who's in his 90s, is still very much an activist. And he never forgot where he came from. He never forgot his roots. It was not a paycheck for him. So, does anyone have any comments? Anybody? Anybody?
No, I was doing a little research on Sammy Davis Jr. And I didn't know he was drafted into the war at age 18. He went through so much. It's just amazing. Like I said earlier, the resilience of what our people had to go through. And, you know, I always thought his nose was so flat. I was like, wow, his nose is so flat. I didn't realize until I read, you know, a little biography on him that Southern white soldiers had abused him racially. Every 2 days, he said his nose was broken several times until it just became flattened. And I almost started crying. It was like that's a damn shame. It really is. And
And
then
the fact that he lost his eye.
yeah, and and not only that, but he had to perform in front of these same soldiers. You know, as far as his talent. And again, it just amazes me the resilience of our people. Just really amazing.
You know, and what's sad about Sammy Davis is the fact that when he died, you know, he didn't have that much money. You know, he had tax problems, you know, what have you. But, you know, you look at these brilliant people who, again, I say, paved the way for the Sam Jacksons, paved, you know, the way for the Denzels or whomever is out there now. You know, but I will say that I was a fan, still am, of Chadwick Boseman. And I always thought that he would be one of the people who would continue to carry the torch in Black Hollywood in terms of the integrity, in terms of not taking a role because you're getting paid, but taking a role because it will elevate us more. And that's one thing that I always respected about him. And it's a shame that, you know, we lost him so soon. You know, but, you know, again, people went through hell. They went through hell. You know, and yes, I do believe that you have Black actors now who are not getting roles that they probably should get and want, whatever. But the same goes with, you know, Latinos and Asians, whatever. They're not getting roles that, you know, they probably want, that are going to white actors. But, you know, I still say, you guys look at the Sammys and the Hatties and the Stephen Fetchits, the Paul Robesons, all of these people. I mean, Showboat. If anybody, you know, if you know that movie, Showboat, you know, you had the woman who is kicked off the boat because they find out that she's half Black. You know, she becomes a lady of the evening, has a really hard life, whatever. But the person who had that role was Lena Horne. And it was taken away from her. Because we cannot have a Black woman in a relationship with a white man. And Lena Horne should have had that role. I mean, it's a great movie. But Lena Horne should have been in that movie. But you did get Paul Robeson. He does sing Old Man River. And they didn't want him to sing that song. They wanted him, you know, to sing some slave song, you know, where, you know, we's happy being slaves. And Paul Robeson said no. He was a trained, you know, voice trained. You know, his voice was like for the opera. He's like, I'm not singing that. This is what I'm going to sing. And then that's when he sung Old Man River. You know, but there's just so many actors. We have let me see if I can bring this one up. I did not get her picture. Madam Sol Taewan. You know, she was another Black actor who was phenomenal that a lot of people don't know about. There's just so many. If you just go back and watch these old movies, you know, phenomenal. But make sure you watch movies with Teresa Harris. Watch Babyface. But once again, you know, all these actors have passed away. A lot of them buried and they're forgotten. I don't know. I don't know. I had so many other actors to talk about, but you know, you don't have the time, whatever. But you know, like you said about Sammy Davis, you know what they went through. They went through so much, and we're still here. We are still here. We are not going away. We are still here. So, Shy Lady, you have anything else to say?
No, like you, I'm a fan of old black and white movies. I love them. Um, Even, you know, some of the old TV shows. I remember when we were kids, back in the 60s and 70s in my household, whenever we saw somebody on TV that was Black, it was a big deal. Like, oh, you know, we were so excited. And it's just amazing, you know, how where we've come from. And it really makes you sad to think about what people like Dorothy Dandridge went through in Hollywood, wanting to be accepted, gifted and talented as an actress, as a singer, denied roles, failed romances. Just it's just so unfortunate. And then you think about people like the Nicholas brothers. You know, she married Harold Nichols. Is it Nicholas or Nichols? The Nicholas brothers.
Yeah.
They were so talented. Never got the recognition that Fred Astaire received as dancers. They were in. I was looking at a video a couple of years ago where the dancing was incredible. I mean, incredible. They were diving off big stage and landing in splits, and I'm like, wow, getting up dancing. It's just amazing the talent that they had, and no recognition. It saddens me how racism has um, taken away so many gifts and talents from people as far as they're displaying that on the big screen. It really saddens me that those people back in those days did not get the opportunities afforded to them that the talents should have um, should have availed for them.
You know, when you talk about the Nicholas brothers, hold on for a second. One person that I forgot to talk about today, who I think deserves recognition, is Bill Robinson, Bill Bojangles Robinson. And
Mhm.
you look at him and the fact that, you know, he invented the stair step routine that you know see in with Shirley Temple, where he's dancing with her, and he taught her that. And even though Shirley Temple knew how to tap, she didn't really become good until she met Bill Robinson. And Bill Robinson even said that Shirley Temple was his best partner, you know, whatever. But he taught Shirley Temple a lot of the dance routines that she did, even if he was not in the movie. You know, and you look at it and you see Shirley Temple, you know, starring Shirley Temple, you know. And then Bill Bojangles Robinson, I mean, it's like he gets you know, he gets recognition, he gets credit, but he doesn't get the credit that he should have had.
You know, that reminds me of I was just watching a video just scrolling through Facebook, YouTube or something, and there was a video of a Black woman somewhere over in Africa. I think it was somewhere over in Africa. It might have been South Africa or somewhere. But anyway, she was an incredible dancer. This is like a recent video from like maybe the 2000s, not early 2000s, but probably like the last couple of years. And there was this little white girl beside her. It kind of reminded me of the Bill Bojangles Robinson and Shirley Temple. It was kind of like the same stuff. This little girl was probably about her age, and she was teaching her these dance moves, these African dance moves. And the video, I think it had something like a million views or something. And all the hype was on this little girl, but the person who taught her, who she was mimicking her moves, but just the teacher still was far better than the student.
Mm-hmm.
But all the ranting and raving on the video was the little white girl. And it's like so unfortunate that we're always clouded by a white person and not recognized for our true talents. It's
Right.
always a white person that has to overshadow us, even though we were the ones who originated this particular tap dance and this African dance. It's always a white person that has to get to shine, and it's just upsetting and still racist.
It is. I mean, and Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire both said that they would not have become tap dancers if it weren't for Bill Robinson. You know, and they got a lot of their moves and what have you from Bill Robinson. You know, so it is. And again, they're appropriating our things, and they're, and it's one thing to say, okay, I'm going to copy you, but at least give the person credit. Can we just please have our credit? You know, like I said, we are not stupid people. You know, we are talented, we are bright, we are smart. You know, so I don't know. But that's all I got for today. I will not be on tomorrow, Friday. I am not doing Friday shows anymore. But my show on Monday is going to be about the national anthem and the Black national anthem. And I was talking to someone, and I think that's something that needs to be explored. So, Shy Lady, as always, thank you for coming.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
And have a good weekend. I know we're going into the 4th weekend. I myself do not celebrate the 4th, but I will be busy this weekend. So thank you for coming. I'm Salad Blue
Thank
Sister.
you.
My turn to talk. Bye.
Bye.